I think when you get up on stage in a wheelchair, which is quite a visible thing for a lot of people, some people sort of look at you sort of side on. They're like, oh, are you performing? And it's this sort of assumption that you're going to be like bad, or oh, poor person in the wheelchair, sort of like, I'm sure they're doing their best. And it's quite interesting as well, as I play ukulele, which is a very diminutive instrument, so there's this whole effect of kind of, oh, the poor crip is coming out to play, and then suddenly sort of, belting out these notes and singing about death and sex, and sort of not being that kind of sweet-natured, sweet-natured crip that you see. But, I'm there to be a musician, and afterwards, you do get people like, oh, do you do this often? It's like, well, yeah, this is my profession. This is what I channel my life into. So there is a lot of inspiration porn. I think it's generally increased when you have visible disabilities. And as someone with both invisible and visible disabilities, I do feel there is a definite sort of shift in people's perceptions. When you have visible disabilities, people are all nice to you and you're an inspiration, and then when you have invisible disabilities, you're lazy, or you can't be bothered, or you're a terrible person. And so yeah, it's very strange being on both sides of that coin.
I'm Not Your Inspiration by Sandra Alland. Film 3, Maki Yamazaki.
It's as though I'm made of glass. An invisible me that nobody sees. Is there some kind of innate defect that wrote my so-called destiny? The hour tolls 11, and they begin to move the doors. A woman knows her place in life. Daughters must die to win our wars. I guess music is very much my main focus. But I'm very involved with graphic novel illustration, webcomic illustration, story writing. I'm even working on things like a lot of game design these days. Like I'm making a card game, as well as I recently just released a web-based, text-based game on the internet. A recent comic which actually I submitted to Teen Girl Comics that I was working on is called It's a Beautiful Z-Day, which is essentially about a survivor who is a parallel universe version of myself. There's a lot of meta that occurs across my art where I'm both playing myself and not playing myself. But sort of being a survivor during a zombie apocalypse, but you don't really get to see the zombies. It's not really about the zombies, it's about living your daily life and sort of all of these things in the world going on around you. I do a lot of music, but definitely my main project is Dr. Carmilla, which is essentially about a lesbian vampire in space, which is actually definitely somewhat more serious than it actually sounds. don't always see you as being an artist, as a performer. They see you as being a girly boy or a trans woman, or as a person in a wheelchair, or as someone who's maybe attention seeking, which is really difficult when you suffer from so many forms of oppression, because intersectionality is so important for picking apart all that stuff. And I think it's, you know, I do feel more than anything else to do with being a musician is the lack of opportunities, whether it be due to lack of access, due to being a woman involved in rock music, to being transgender and a singer, in that combination, being a person of colour, and just generally not being what people envisage when they're looking for musicians. When thinking about LGBTQ plus communities, I do feel, I guess in all sectors of society, there really needs to be a lot more awareness of trans issues, and also disability awareness. And I do feel quite often excluded. The number of times, for example, I've been asked to come along and do a performance, and I get there and they're like, oh, it's completely accessible, we've sorted that out, and you know, and I've even asked them about specific things, and then they turn up and certain things will be missing. There won't be accessible toilets, there's a bloody great big step in front of the venue, or the worst bugbear of my life as a performer is no level access to stages. It's a huge problem. Within LGBT spaces, I can't really comment that much on a lot of things like, for example, nightclubs, because I can't get into them. And that's one of the big things is there are a lot of spaces that I do not have access to. So I do tend to find whenever I do go to events, I am surrounded by lovely people with a great amount of awareness because I can actually get there. Sometimes you get people who are organising events and you ask them whether or not where they're holding it is accessible, for example, for wheelchairs. And quite often I'll get the responses like, well, no, but we can organise it to be somewhere. And it's this assumption that they'll only make allowances for when people are turning up to events, rather than actually thinking, hold on, are people not going to go to our events because they're not accessible? Today's video is brought to you in association with the letter